Hi, everybody. Peter Greenberg here. Welcome to the first Thursday of April 2022. And it's time for our weekly Facebook Global Travel Update. I'm coming to you right now in the very dark moments of the morning here, 6 hours behind New York, from the Ritz-Carlton in Maui in Kapalua. And of course, all you guys can just email your questions into me. We'll get to them, of course, as quickly as we can. There's so much stuff to report today. And so let's get started. Number one, a reminder, as I do every week, to do what you can to help out what's going on in Ukraine. Doctors Without Borders, Americans, of course, Aviation USA, opusa.org, and Jose Andre and all the work he's doing with World Central Kitchen. And last but not least, All Hands and Hearts. Those are the second responders who go in when hopefully this is over to start rebuilding, especially with a focus on schools. So check our website, petergreenberg.com, for a list of all those aid and relief organizations, and please do whatever you can to help at this crucial time as the situation continues to deteriorate. Lots of stuff to talk about in the news this week. Let's start with the investigation into the crash of China Eastern Flight 5735. We all saw that security camera video, which basically revealed the trajectory of that plane. I mean, just horrifying. It fell 21,000 feet in 72 seconds. That works out to 31,000 feet a minute, well beyond the aircraft's ability to maintain its stability aerodynamically, which is why they found some of the wreckage about 6 miles away. The plane was literally disintegrating from itself on the way down. Now, what happened? Well, in every accident investigation, the investigators have to painstakingly rule everything out before they can rule any one thing in. And in this case, they've been able to rule out weather. They've been able to rule out mid-air collision. They've been able to rule out turbulence. They've been able to rule out fuel. They've been able to rule out a number of other things, air traffic control, for example. However, here's what they haven't been able to rule out. Now, they haven't ruled it in yet, but we're left with two scenarios equally disturbing. One is that there was a massive structural failure at altitude with something leaving the plane, which resulted, or with the control system locked and unable to move, which left the plane unable to control. I mean, it became uncontrollable, and it falls from the sky. That's one scenario. The other scenario, which we've seen before, is pilot suicide. Now, are we ever going to know what happened? The protocol in crashes like this, all over the world, is that the agency leading the investigation is the agency based in the country where it happened. So when the Concorde crashed in Paris in 2000, it was the BEA, the French equivalent of the NTSB, that did the investigation. Here it's the Chinese authorities. Now, do the Americans get involved? Yes, as sort of parties to the investigation. The U.S. sent force investigators from the NTSB to France, and we have investigators standing by to help out in China. In some cases, we're more actively involved than others, simply because the NTSB has better lab work and laboratory facilities than many other countries. But in this case, the Chinese are firmly leading the investigation. We're a part of it, but it's the Chinese that are going to write the report. And let me give you an example of where that can get a little haywire. The Concorde crash on July 25th, 2000, the investigation was led by the BEA. In their investigative report, think about this. It was a French airline operating a French-built plane from a French airport, operating with a French crew on French tires, you name it. And their investigative report concluded that the plane crashed because it hit a piece of metal from an earlier departing Continental Airlines DC-10. And because of that, the probable cause of the crash was Continental. In fact, they indicted Continental and charged them with manslaughter in the deaths of 119 people. It only took a later investigation by me. We did a 1-hour special on Dateline that overturned that conviction, and we proved that it wasn't what it was. It was a lot different than that. Will we have that opportunity, or do we need that opportunity with China? Who knows? The politics here, the economics here are intense. We can only hope that even in a dissenting report, the NTSB might tell us what really happened. If there's a dissenting report needed, we don't know yet. But that's the update on Flight 5735. All right, moving on. Big news this week, literally out of the blue, JetBlue announcing it wants to acquire Spirit Airlines for $3.6 billion. This on the heels of a February announcement that Frontier was going to merge with Spirit and be sort of their juggernaut. So this is sort of stunning the aviation world. Why is JetBlue doing this? Well, there are a couple of reasons that we can suspect. One is mass and size. JetBlue and Spirit fly the same equipment, Airbus. Spirit has a huge order for new planes with Airbus, and if JetBlue takes over Spirit, they become front of the line to get those new planes, and they can grow their airline. The other reason, and let's not discount it, and that, by the way, that's a pun, is let's go back to when American Airlines took over TWA in 2000. The real reason why American did that was because TWA was so heavily discounting fares on routes where it competed with American, it forced American to lower their fares. And American ran the numbers and said, if we can just buy TWA, well, our investment would be in profit, not because then we raise the fares. And by the way, that's exactly what they did. This may be the case here as well. So stay tuned. Now, of course, both the Frontier and Spirit idea and the JetBlue and Spirit idea are subject to federal regulation and oversight with the Justice Department Antitrust Division. The regulators are certainly going to take a close look at this. They're going to see where routes overlap, where flights overlap, where interests overlap. Is there a geographic dominance in terms of airports and slots? We'll see what happens. But at least now you know there are two things on the works now with Spirit. All right. Speaking of Spirit, you may have noticed they had a meltdown in their system the other day. All because they claim of weather in Florida. That may be true, but there's catalytic reasons and underlying reasons. And the catalytic reason could have been weather, but the underlying reason was staffing. It still is staffing. Speaking of JetBlue, they just cut 27 routes this summer that they can't support. Southwest cutting 10% of its flight schedule. That's 14,000 flights. United in May and June cutting 20,000 flights. What does that tell you? This crazy inverse relationship at the time of demand growing, they can't handle it. And look, when you start reducing capacity at a time of growing demand, you don't have to be an economics major to realize airfares are going to go up. And they are going up as we speak. Remember last week we talked about going up 7% every month and then 7% every 10 days and then 7% every 4 days, still going up. And you add the fuel prices to that, it has nowhere to go but up. So if you're going to book a flight, please do it now. It's only going to get worse. I'm going to give you our trivia question of the week before I introduce our special guest star today. The trivia question is, which country has the longest name? All right, which country in the world, 196 countries, has the longest name? We'll get back to you on that. But first, let me introduce our special guest. He writes a great website column called theviewfromthewing.com, Mr. Gary Leff. Hello, Gary.
Hello, sir.
Listen, I read you every day, and one of the stories that you've been covering, in depth, has been this crazy stuff. I've talked about it on this show before, and that is, I now tell people, you need to do three things before you take the rental car out of the lot. Number one, get your cell phone camera out and take pictures of every ding, dent, and blemish on the outside of the car and on the inside of the car. Time code it, go back to the counter, make sure the rental car agent notifies you on the contract that it was happening before you took the car off the lot, so that when you return the car, you don't get hit with a $4,000 repair bill for things you didn't do. That's number one. Number two is about mileage. The days of unlimited mileage of the rental car may be over. They're putting like 100 mile a day caps on it. And if you exceed that 100 miles, the per mile charge is excessive. But then number three is all because of your reporting. It's the other question I never thought I'd have to ask at a rental car counter before I took the car off the lot is, can you please confirm that my car has not been reported as stolen? Here been going on during the pandemic, and then I'll let you give the update. So many people had difficulty finding car. When they did, they said, you know what, even though it says a week on the contract, I'll take it for 2. And they did. And then they returned the car and paid the extra charges. However, that second week, the rental car company, in this case Hertz, didn't know about the deal and reported the car as stolen. And then the car gets returned, the charges get paid, and then Hertz forgets to tell the authorities that the car is not stolen. And then Mrs. Schmidlap goes to rent the car, gets pulled over, and is now in handcuffs. People actually went to jail. You reported on the story, but you've also now reported on the Hertz CEO finally acknowledging they actually did all this.
Yeah, this gained a lot more traction after there was a class action lawsuit, and honestly, I'm often very skeptical of these lawsuits. Where I think of the old Saturday Night Live, Phil Hartman, Green and Fazio, where they say, "Sure, what does that no trespassing sign really mean when you're as drunk as I was? Sure, you can sue for anything, right?" But as I looked into this, and as I even heard from readers that this happened to, it seemed like it doesn't happen obviously every time you rent from Hertz, but but meaningfully enough, or at least to enough people that you start to worry about it. It seems like it originally happens most of the time for two things: either you extend the rental and they don't enter it right, or you exchange vehicles for something else and they don't swap the vehicles right. And they do mark it, stolen. People are getting sent to jail. And even when it's demonstrated that the people couldn't possibly have stolen the vehicle or even paid for the vehicle, Hertz didn't have their act together to withdraw the charges. And it seemed like this was a civil matter anyway, something you sue a customer for, not paying promptly or not handling the rental car. But they were turning this over to law enforcement, and people were spending time in jail. And now the CEO acknowledges that this happened. He doesn't say which specific cases or how many, but he downplays it, saying, "Well, look, it's not most of the time." Well, no, it's not most of the time, but you're sending customers to jail. Like, that's a problem. And the other sort of argument is that, well, it's not happening anymore, except we keep hearing stories of it happening in 2022, including someone gets off a cruise in February, gets arrested. This is a Hertz President's Club member, right? This isn't even just the random customer. This is their top published tier of their elite program, who's spending a lot of money with Hertz. Like, I've been stealing cars, right? He's paying Hertz a lot of money, and they just haven't had their act together. And then the complication of all of this, of course, is the bankruptcy. And so this gets involved in bankruptcy court. Can they or can't they discharge the claims? The bottom line is they've got to get this solved. They say that it's solved, but it doesn't quite seem to be. The first step is acknowledging, of course, that they have a problem. But I do think you're absolutely right. Make sure that the vehicle hasn't been reported stolen before you take it, but also don't extend rentals with Hertz right now, and don't change cars, because these are the things where their record keeping doesn't always seem to keep up.
Right. And the thing is this: it's more than just having a conversation at the counter saying, "Can you please confirm that my car has not been reported stolen?" You need to get that in writing, because when you get pulled over, you need to show somebody something. It's not like a guy called Vern told me this. So that's that one. Now let's go on to another subject I want to talk about, and that is what constitutes an acceptable delay. I'll give you an example, and it just happened to me last week. I was reserved on a flight on American Airlines from Dallas to Los Angeles that left Dallas at 2:34 in the afternoon. That was its scheduled departure time. At 6 o'clock that morning, so more than 8 hours before the departure time, I get an electronic alert from American saying, "My flight's delayed." Excuse me? No hours earlier that my flight's delayed? And I'm in your hub? I'm in your headquarters location? So you have to say to yourself, okay, what could it be? Could it be weather? I don't think so. Could it be a mechanical? Could be, but I'm at American Airlines headquarters. They have another plane they can wheel out. That doesn't often happen if you're flying American in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But if you're in Dallas, it's you got a shot. There's only one logical conclusion to why they gave me an 8.5-hour notice that my flight would be delayed. They didn't have a crew. Now, here's the crazy part. It's the beginning of the month. It was April 3rd, right? That's when the airlines have a full complement of crew. They're starting a new schedule. Nobody's exceeded their maximum number of work hours. So how bad is this if they're canceling a flight or delaying a flight by 8.5 hours because of crew on the third day of the month? Yikes.
Yeah, and look, all of not all, United seemed to fare pretty well, but the rest of the airlines over the past week have had some challenges, American included, and some of it is related to a shortage of crew. This week, American sent a memo to their flight attendants threatening to fire them if they're working reserve and they're not within 3 hours of their base. which apparently seems to be an issue with some of the younger flight attendants, where they play a little game. They're supposed to be at the ready to work, but they make a bet that they're not going to be needed, and so they're not where they're supposed to be. So this is not the largest reason for problems, and a lot of crew are pretty outraged that they're kind of being scapegoated. But at the beginning of the month, you usually don't run out of crew. There certainly were lack of crew. I will say I appreciate it when I get the news from an airline hours and hours many hours later, right? I'm standing there waiting around and I don't know what's happening. I can at least have advance notice to get myself rescheduled, get myself onto a different flight or even onto a different airline. So letting me know earlier is certainly appreciated. But goodness no, there's the lack of crew is a problem, and it wasn't supposed to be, right? This was the raison d'etre of why we were handing out $78 billion in subsidies, so that the airlines would keep all of their employees attached to the company and be ready to fly when people were ready to return to the skies. But that's not what they did. They pushed people out of the company to save money and spend less of those subsidies than they needed to in order to keep the rest of the money for themselves. And they did find themselves shorthanded. Sometimes it's a lack of flight attendants. Sometimes it's a lack of pilots. And sometimes it's the management employees who, haven't, the Americans shed 30% of their non-union workforce, and they're not doing such a great job of keeping track of their crew. I hear from flight attendants who complain they are sitting on the ground for 24 hours trying to get through to scheduling to find out where the airline wants them to go, and they can't find out, and the airline loses track of where they even are. So they've got management problems as well as frontline employee problems. It's not just limited to American, of course.
By the way, I'm not trying to dump on American, but their branding message makes me laugh. Their branding message saying, "Taking care of you on life's journey." Well, am I on a flying hospce? I mean, sorry.
That's right. It does sort of sound like like branding for a retirement community.
It does. It does. One more thought before I let you go, and that is the continuing problem of outrageous hold times to get somebody on the phone in an airline. And the thing that always cracks me up, and I say it in a not really a cracked up way because I'm angry about it, is that when you get that recorded message saying, "Sorry, we can't take your call," they then say to you in that same recorded message, "At the end of this conversation, please stay on the line for another 2 minutes to take a survey on our service." Stop it. Just stop it. You're asking for trouble. You already know the answer to that question if you keep me on line, if you keep me on hold for 4 hours.
Yeah. So look, this is something that is universal across the industry these days, having a really hard time getting a hold of an agent. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Part of it is having fewer agents. American even moved some of their phone agents it has another problem, which is that with preponderance of leisure travelers relative compared to how many business travelers we used to have in the skies, people simply take more time on the phone. Customers call more. They need more help. So it's more demand for phone at the same time that there's less phone service available. And then when operational problems creep in, not enough crew or bad weather, you got more calls still. So you get 7-hour calls, hold times. Last year we were seeing Delta hold times up to 40 hours if you were a top tier Diamond member. And this even came up during an earnings call where Ed Bastian said, "Well, just email me as the CEO if you can't get through." Good luck with that. But there are some workarounds that savvy travelers can use. With American Airlines, I will call their Sydney or London reservations line using an internet calling service so I don't have to pay toll charges. Because when bad weather is here in the US, people are calling the US lines and not the foreign call centers. So so an English language foreign call center can be a great way to get some help. And with American, I find that their Twitter direct messaging, it may not be instant when they're overwhelmed, but they do a lot to help customers in a way that other airlines don't do the same sort of reservation service on Twitter. With Delta, for travel within 48 hours, they have a dedicated phone line, which I published on my website. It's 855-548-2505, and that number is for immediate priority for immediate travel, and you can usually get through in minutes. They won't help you if it's for an itinerary that's 3 or more days in the future, but if you're trying to get something solved today, that can be real helpful.
There you go. That's why I read you every day. Gary Leff, the author of viewfromthewing.com. You'll get all those phone numbers on his website and a few more items as well. Gary, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Peter. Anytime. Glad to be with you and your audience.
You got it. And by the way, please stay on the line for another 2 minutes to give me a survey of how we did today, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, man. All right. I'm going to give you the answer to the trivia question. Some of you actually got it. It was sort of a trick question. Which country has the longest name? All right, let me scroll up here and tell you who got it. All right, I'm scrolling. I know people did get it. Oh, God, we have so many questions today. Okay, without giving the winners out, I'll just tell you the answer. It's the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Told you it was a trick question, but some of you saw through that and got the answer. All right, let's scroll down here and see where everybody is. One piece of housekeeping news, of course. We're coming up on the premiere of Tanzania, the Royal Tour. It will premiere now on April 18th, starting with WTTW in Chicago, and then rolls out through all the PBS stations around the country after that. Again, it's Tanzania, the Royal Tour. Check your local listings for that. It's a 1-hour special. It's also going to be available later that week on Amazon Prime and Apple TV+. All right, now let's go to some. Priya's saying hello from Irvine, and Camilla's saying hi from Tucson. Lindy's in Ventura. Melanie's just saying aloha, so I guess you must be where I am. Hi from Charlotte, says Sandy. Zora from California. I'm going to Lisbon, Portugal next month. Please recommend me the name of a couple of hotels in Avenida da Liberdade. Okay, I'll give you one. It's the old Tivoli, which has now been taken over by my friend who runs all the Anantara hotels. And what's cool about the Tivoli, the rooms are fine, go up to the roof. Coolest roof garden bar in Lisbon. You'll have a great time. All right. Sue is saying hi from Washington State. Josh is saying San Fernando Valley, the beautiful San Fernando Valley. Okay. Willie's saying good morning, watching from Atchison, Kansas. Enjoy Kapalua. I love that part of the island. Reminds me of Kauai. It does. Although Kapalua is a little windier than Kauai. Mailing Moore saying hi. Robin saying hello from Williamsburg, as she always does. Ellen says she missed last week because she was traveling in Jordan. Okay. And we did choose your photo of the week, Ellen. And she says, by the way, Jordan was amazing. We know that. By the way, a lot of new routes being announced by certain airlines like United, especially on the international level. And starting May 5th, they're going nonstop from the U.S. to Amman, Jordan. Okay. Anna's saying she just got back from a fantastic trip to Budapest and cruising on the Maga River cruise. All right. Glad you had a great time. Leaving for Maui on Saturday. Okay, Judy. Lorraine says, heading to Oahu for a significant birthday next week. I won't ask. Thanks for the article in Costco magazine. You're welcome. Okay. Just heard from Gary Leff that 1-day antigen test not going away at present. That's right. That's the 24-hour rule in terms of coming back to the U.S. When do I think this may sunset in the U.S., especially for vaccinated travelers? I think it's going to happen way before they remove the masks, actually. I think the mask mandate will stay probably through the end of May, through Memorial Day weekend. But I'm hoping that we're going to get an answer on the required, 24-hour negative COVID test rule relatively soon, because a lot of other countries have already eliminated that if you're a vaccinated traveler. Okay, Colleen's saying a peaceful day from Point Loma in San Diego. Okay. Beverly's saying hello from Baton Rouge, the home of my favorite root beer place, Frost Top. Okay, hello from Tanzania. Okay, very good. John says hi from Illinois. My friend Peter in Rwanda, in Kigali. A very important date today that Peter reminds us. It's the 28th commemoration of the terrible 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and the beginning of the week of national mourning. Yes, something that you can never forget in Rwanda. Patty's saying hi from Kentucky, and in 2 weeks we'll be in Paris. Nervous and excited. What are you nervous about? You're going to Paris. Worried about picking up COVID there and not being able to return home as scheduled. You know what? Everybody worries about that now. It's the subtext. But I'm assuming, Patty, you're vaccinated. I'm assuming if you're qualified for a second booster, you'll do it. And you know what? Let's say you test positive and you have to be stuck in Paris for 5 days. Oh my goodness, do I feel sorry for you. Okay. Okay, Lois is saying, would I advise against the big ship cruising because of concern? No, I wouldn't. Look, Take a look at the numbers here. I've talked about this before. They've checked their ventilation systems. In fact, they've redone them. They've checked all their social distancing protocols. They've redone them. Their dining services, they've redone them. Their shore excursions, they've redone them. I just came off a ship last week. As you know, if you've been watching, I'm not frothing at the mouth or glowing in the dark. I'm vaccinated. The crew is vaccinated. The officers are vaccinated. You're going to be okay. If you take a look at the incidence of COVID positive tests on cruise ships today, it's about 1.4%. That's nothing. And remember, these are people who are already vaccinated anyway. So we're talking about either asymptomatic or mild symptoms. Nobody's going to the hospital. Nobody's dying. So, bon voyage. Now, I'm not telling you not to be responsible and wear a mask if you think you need to, right? The fact that masks are not required on cruise ships now doesn't mean they're not optional, right? Do your homework. Robin saying hello from San Juan Capistrano. Adrian saying the barcode tags are placed at the curbside drop-off. We don't have them with us at the gate. Yes, you do. I talked about this last week. When you get your bag tags from an airline, they put one on the bag and they put the other one stuck to the back of your boarding pass. There are barcodes on there, right? And there are bag tag numbers on there. Piece of cake, okay? Now, if you don't think you have them, you want to take a picture of that and take it to the gate, go ahead. But those barcodes are on the bag tags. Okay, Zach is saying hello from Houston, just back from the travel show. Oh, you saw me in person. Okay, in Dallas. All right, thank you so much. Anna's saying plan to visit Greece in September. When is the best time to purchase airline tickets? When in September, Anna? Hopefully after September 15th, then you can purchase them now. And by the way, September, as I always say, the magic month in the Mediterranean. You will not be disappointed. Karen saying hi from Folsom. All right. Greetings from, oh my goodness, the Cape Verde Islands. All right for you guys. Anybody know what the Cape Verde Islands are? Well, if you know, if you've ever flown to South Africa in the old days, you knew you had to stop there for refueling, but a very cool place to stop anyway. I mean, I know so many old South African pilots who used to keep houses there. They'd take their layovers there and go fishing. It was the best. I hope you enjoy it. Okay. Paul is saying he booked round trip on Delta JFK to Rome, wanted to pay with miles, but Delta website did not offer. Okay. Agent said that paying with miles did not apply for that flight. Well, look, in the world of dynamic pricing and the elimination charts, they may have had any frequent flyer mile seats available on that flight. But listen, let's go back to what you said in the initial part of your question. Why would you try to book miles online? Get on the phone. Because Delta is part of the Sky Team. You could have done it with a number of different other airlines. Okay. Caroline saying hello from Waikoloa on the Big Island. Okay. Wants to know if I live on Maui. Wish I did. Not flying out of here today, as a matter of fact. Sue is saying good morning from an April heat wave in Studio City. Okay. All right. Oh, Lindy guessed Turkmenistan is the longest name. Sorry, Lindy. It's the United Kingdom of Great Britain, which Sue Hennepin got, which Melanie Wood got. And Joanna says she's in Portugal, visiting from Chicago. Good choice. All right, here we go. Sandy's saying going to Egypt in March of 2023. Award Air on Flying Blue and Star Alliance just opened. Outrageous number of miles for round trip business class. Listen to this, 400,000 miles for one person for a business class ticket. What do you advise? I go back to the day when somebody wanted me to fly first class on TWA from Los Angeles to Paris, and they were buying the ticket. It was for a story I was doing in those days for Rolling Stone. They got me the ticket. I took one look at that ticket. I got sick. That wasn't a ticket. That was a Toyota. It was $13,000. I could not. It's an airline seat. It's not nonstop caviar and massages. You know what? Grin and bear it. Do a coach ticket. You'll sleep it off when you get there. No, as far as I'm concerned, no business class ticket is worth 400,000 miles. You work too hard to earn them. Use them for more flights in coach. That's my and by the way, I didn't fly to Paris in first class. I flew it in coach. Jude saying hi from Japan. Okay, Robert's saying want to fly into Santa Fe, but the car rentals are ridiculous. They're going to be ridiculous through the summer, guys. It's just the way it is. We've talked about this every single week. It's a mess. Mike is saying 91 degrees in Fort Lauderdale. Okay. Joseph saying hi from Nairobi. And he got it right. United Kingdom of Great Britain. Good for you, Joseph. So did Janice from Chicago. She got that answer right. So did Jim and Harriet in Richmond, Virginia. Okay, Cindy's saying planning a trip to Portugal in the latter half of September for 10 days. How do you feel about Airbnb there? Love it. I'll tell you why. Very good friend of mine, and he's been on the show before, Richard Bangs, who's an amazing explorer. When I was in Lisbon last week doing the show, he saw the Facebook posting, and he texted me. He was literally living across the street. He and his wife rented an Airbnb apartment for a month right there in Lisbon and having the time of their lives, and incredibly affordable. So have fun. Okay. Christopher saying blessings from Miami. Sandy saying United Kingdom of Great Britain. You got that one right. And let's go now to the photo of the week before we run out of time. Let's go to it. It's coming up. And there it is. Anybody want to know where that was taken? Anybody? All right. Well, first of all, let's congratulate Joan Haas. She's the winner. In September 2019, she writes, my husband, daughter, and I, and my sister and I traveled to Italy, starting at the National Park in Cinque Terre. This photo is a view from our apartment in Vernazza. We explored all 5 towns and swam in the Tyrrhenian Sea. This was the start to our month-long vacation, which also included Elba. We remember Elba. Remember Napoleon? But that wasn't the only place he was exiled. Remember that? He did have to spend exile in Elba, but then he escaped. He then fought the British at the Battle of Waterloo, and then they got him again, and they put him in the one island he couldn't escape from, St. Helena. We've done stories on that. We did a special on it, as a matter of fact, on Travel Detective, which, by the way, is premiering next month. So check your local listings on PBS as well. Lots of stuff to do. Let's go to some questions you sent in from, okay. Andy says, as someone who's worked as an airline ramp agent, they don't always load the bags before you start boarding. What do you do in that case to know if your bag is on the plane? Very simple. Be the last to board. And then ask the question at the counter. Or, as I do, give the gate agent your bag tag numbers, otherwise known as the barcodes, and then ask them to just tell the lead flight attendant that your bags are on the plane. They'll do that. They will do that. You have to have a conversation, though. Okay. Okay. Do I know how I can get money back, Aaron writes, instead of a travel voucher on a canceled Southwest flight? Aha. I have good news for you. This is really good news. What's the biggest problem in airline tickets? I'll give you the example. If I buy 2 tickets for the movies and I can't go, I can give one to you. If I buy a 6-pack of Coke and I don't drink 3 of the bottles, I can give them to you. In fact, I can give you the entire 6-pack. But that has not worked with airline tickets. They insist that it has to stay in the name of the person on the ticket and who purchased it. Every airline's done that as long as I can remember, and it's unfair, it's unreasonable, and there is no security consideration here because you're going to have to change the name and then show your ID anyway. Nobody's done that. You know why? They want to make you buy more tickets. Well, kudos to Southwest Airlines. They've just introduced a new fare category. It's a little bit more expensive than their basic so-called economy fare, the lowest fare. And for that fare, if you can't use the ticket or you cancel the flight, you get a credit that you can give to anybody. You could even give it to me. But seriously, you can give it to anybody. It's good for a year. That means a family member, a loved one, a business partner, a friend. That's the way it should be, right? Congratulations to Southwest. Let's hope the other airlines follow suit. They need to. This is the fair way to go. But that fare is coming into play in about another 2 weeks. Check with Southwest, and hopefully that will answer your question. It's a long time in coming, and they deserve our congratulations. Okay, one more piece of housekeeping, because I've got a flight to catch out of Maui today. Of course, our radio show, Eye on Travel, airing this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Check your local listings in your market. And if you can't find it, not a problem. Go right to our website, petergreenberg.com. It'll hit the radio icon. We stream it live from 10:05 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time every Saturday. It's also available as a podcast early next week. Again, the Royal Tour of Tanzania, airing April 18th. start WTTW in Chicago and then rolling out to all the other PBS stations. I hope we get a chance to see it. I will see you next week at a different time. I think it'll be Friday. I know it'll be Friday from a place about 6,500 miles away from here. So you know it's not Hawaii, and it's not the United Kingdom of Great Britain either. Have a great week, everybody. Please go back to our website. Look at those aid organizations and help them out. They need it. This situation is not getting better. Whatever you can do will be so appreciated by everybody, including me. I'll see you next week. Travel safely. And if you get an email saying your flight's been delayed by 8.5 hours, now you know why. See you next week.